and the whole plane started to vibrate.
There were two loud noises. It was like boom, boom.
I saw something flying out of the aircraft wing. It's hard to tell what it was. It was very fast.
The wing, all of a sudden, the surface opened up and debris flying forward and sparks forward. But it was with such a speed, you can't follow with your eyes.
All you could see was the smoke and little bits of black debris coming flying out. And I just looked at Larry and I said, do you think there's birds that we hit? Do you think we're going to be all right?
The next thing I did was just say a couple of quick prayers.
And then within about 5 seconds, it felt as if we were plunging out of the sky.
Were you scared?
Very scared indeed.
I immediately went to level the aircraft, which would serve to bring the thrust off the engines and to make everything less severe.
Master warning, clearing engine 2 fire.
Emergency warnings were sounding in the cockpit.
ECAM actions.
I had my thumb up most of the time, just cancelling the bells. You can't think with a bell ringing on top of your head.
I stood up and looked over Matt, the first officer's seat, to discover that we'd had an engine failure, which is what I was expecting to see. But what I wasn't expecting to see was 2 other engines in less than normal condition.
We pulled up a screen to show us all the sensors on engine 2, and they were all crossed. When I saw that, I thought something has blown all the sensors off that engine.
Master warning, autopilot off. Confirm engine 2 damage. We got some pretty loud bangs there. I reckon it's damaged.
We just turned left and went up towards the north, back towards the field, because, you know, in that scenario, I mean, I thought we could end up in the water.
There was a girl sitting on the aisle seat opposite me, and she had a little baby. And she looked at me and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I think something's happened, one of the engines, but it's all right, we've got 3 other engines and we're sure we can land on one engine."
Is that what you were thinking?
No, not at all. I'm thinking if that's black debris that's coming out of the plane, if it hits the fuselage, and we're going. So we are.
What shot through my head straight away is you have one choice only. There's no way back. Either you get an uncontrollable cabin with panic, fear, and aggression, or they sit back and just trust you and follow your instructions and go with you.
Senior Check Captain Dave Evans made the first of a series of announcements from the flight deck.
I do apologise. I'm sure you are aware we have a technical issue with our number 2 engine. We have dealt with the situation. But at this stage, everything is secure. The aircraft is flying safe.
It may have been reassuring, but it wasn't completely true. No one trains for the comprehensive shutdown of systems the crew were now experiencing in the cockpit. First Officer Matt Hicks watched a series of alert messages known as ECAM appear on the screens in front of him, each listing damage to a different aircraft system and each demanding a response.
The system prioritises the messages as best it can. We had 58 messages or something, individual ECAMs, and there was way more subsystem faults that weren't displayed. It just felt like it wouldn't end, you know, it just kept going and going and going.
Checklist after checklist. So we had engine, and then we had fuel system and flight controls and electrics, hydraulics, pneumatics, landing gear, brakes, auto thrust, air conditioning.
Landing gear, gravity extender.
Matt Hicks is a very competent operator with 15 or so years in Qantas, having flown a 767, 747, A330 and A380, and he was working, I would say, close to his limit. And I would not like to have seen someone with very low hours trying to do that job on that day.
Hey, Robbie.
The same messages had flashed up at the Qantas Operations Centre in Sydney, where the fleet is monitored 24 hours a day.
They all appear to have popped up at the same time.
Okay, so that's about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly right.
Amazing messages, messages like we've never seen before, both quantity and severity. Spoken to the crew yet?
No, the aircraft hasn't called yet.
But they couldn't talk to the crew. After the explosion, satellite voice communication had been cut. Only a VHF signal relayed from Singapore told them the plane's location.
Station 1, Changi Tower Manager. Qantas 32, Airborne 0156. Reported pan call. Engine number 2 problem.
The pilot's only direct contact with the ground was with air traffic control in Singapore.
The pilot wanted to remain within 30 miles of Changi Airport in case he needed to land quickly.
As a gut instinctive reaction, I thought, in the worst case, we might lose all the systems, and I just have to safeguard this aircraft in the most simplest way. And the way to do that is to get within gliding range of Singapore.
The operations team, crowded around their computers, could see the situation was more dangerous than an engine failure.
It's tense. There's no two ways about it. We knew there must have been some sort of mechanical damage, and therefore a debris had been released from that engine. So it's the mechanical damage to the rest of the aeroplane that we start getting concerned about.
Passengers and crew with a view of the wing could see where the debris had ripped through.
I saw from my seat 2 relatively large holes. One hole looked like a human body could fit through it, actually, in size. And you could see, parts of that wing being bent outside.
Mark Johnson went back to the cabin to take a look.
One was more like a gash mark, and the other one was quite a largish hole where, clearly a projectile had just been punched up through the wing.
The cowling was gone, and the rear of the engine was all smashed and damaged, and the wing was damaged, and we could see we were losing fuel. And then when my colleague said, "Look, the kangaroo has gone," I knew that was an uncontained engine failure.
Pieces of the engine rained down on the main city of Batam Island in Indonesia. While the plane was still in the air, pictures of large pieces of the aircraft on the ground began appearing on television.
Satu persatu pecahan dan serpihan pesawat Qantas Super Jumbo dengan tipe A380 yang diberangkatkan.
Twitter messages spread claiming that a Qantas plane had crashed. The mistaken tweets were quickly reported as news. Qantas CEO Alan Joyce was in his car in Sydney.
Our investor relations people who were with me at the time said our share price was collapsing. We then did a ring around to find out why. Some of the shareholders had picked up from social media, and that was being reported, that Qantas aircraft had crashed in Indonesia.
Nick McGlynn, the Asian regional manager for Qantas, got a call in Singapore.
I had a call from our manager in Indonesia. He'd had a phone call from Batam saying there were parts of an aircraft falling from the sky, and they looked like Qantas parts. And there were suggestions that it possibly had crashed. When you do get that phone call, though, your heart stops, and you think, "My God, what has happened here?"
In the operations centre, Alan Milne knew the plane hadn't crashed, but he'd had reports that children may have been killed by falling debris.
Yeah, they're saying wreckage with the kangaroo tail. Okay.
The delay until we confirmed that there was no fatalities was an enormous period of time in my life, yeah.
Batam Air Traffic Control informed us that some aircraft parts were found by residents of Batam Island. We immediately conveyed this information to the pilot.
Circling above the water, the captain had no time to think about what had happened on the ground.
I was aware that it was there, but I can't affect that. There's nothing I can do. So you just face the enemy in front of you.